Yes, my dear students, in this video, we will learn how to derive the demand curve using the indifference curve technique. Using the indifference curve and the budget constraint. You know the law of demand and you know the demand curve. The law of demand tells you the inverse relationship between price and demand. Higher the price, lower will be the demand, and vice versa. Since there is inverse relationship between price and demand, the demand curve slopes negatively. It slopes downwards. It tells you the demand curve is a graphical representation of the demand schedule where consumer will have different combinations of price and demand. There will be different prices, there will be different quantities demanded. That's the graphical representation. When very simple, the law of demand tells you about the inverse relationship between price and demand, and the demand curve slopes downwards. And that's the slope of the demand curve. And the shape of the demand curve is downward sloping. It slopes from left to right, downwards. And you know the indifference curve technique. The indifference curve technique speaks of the maximization of satisfaction by the consumer, where the indifference curve is tangent to the budget restraint or budget line. And you know, demand constitutes two important things: desire or willingness to pay. Mere desire cannot make it demand. Demand should be backed by ability to pay. He must have ability to purchase. He may have a desire or willingness to have an Audi car, a bungalow, but he must have the ability to pay. So, demand demands preference, that is willingness. At the same time, it demands ability to pay. Right? Budget line speaks of ability to pay. Budget constraint tells you how much income you have. And indifference curve speaks of willingness and preference. Here, it is a tricky question. How to derive the demand curve using the indifference curve technique. Indifference curve technique will have two important things. That is indifference curve, which slopes downward. It is convex to the origin because of diminishing marginal rate of substitution. And there is a budget constraint or budget line which slopes downwards. It's a straight line. It tells when you go for one commodity, more of one commodity, you will have to forego the other commodity. That is already taught. Now here let us see, here in A, picture A or diagram A, I have written these things. Earlier you see, that was the AQ say, earlier AB, that is the budget line, and this is A, at A, IC is tangent to the budget line, AB. Please see. So there are three budget lines: B, AB, AB1, AB2. Say, you write AB1, AB AB, AB1, AB2, three budget lines are there. And three indifference curves are there. IC1, okay, right here, IC1, IC2, IC3. Okay. Now, here in the beginning, the indifference curve is tangent to the budget line. There is a point of equilibrium. The point of equilibrium is A. Equilibrium point is A on the first budget line, right? And here he purchases OX1 commodity. Here this much he purchases commodity X1 commodity. Here X1, the purchase of X1 commodity is increased, the quantity demanded is increased from X1, say just X2, and then here X. But the name of the commodity is X1, right? You need not write X1 or X2. So the demand for X1 commodity increases, and here also the demand is more when compared to this one and this one. Okay, now let us see what happens when the price of X1 commodity is OY, say OY here. That was the equilibrium point here. Suppose if the price falls, the price of X1 commodity falls, so you will have more purchasing power. It demands for X1 commodity. When the price of X1 commodity falls, according to the law of demand, the demand for X1 commodity increases. So equilibrium point shifts to B. There is another equilibrium point, A, B. Even the price of fall, the price of X1 commodity still is reduced. It falls again, and the equilibrium point moves to C. So you plot these points on other diagram, that is diagram B. Let's see. This is OX, this is OY. Okay. So when the price was OY, when the income was OY, that means the same price. So here you plot this point. That much was being demanded. The quantity demanded was at this point. Here, say A. Suppose if the price of X1 commodity decreases, the demand for X1 commodity increases, and the new equilibrium point is B. At B, so corresponding point is plotted. You please take this. Point, say this is point B, and again the price of X1 falls and the demand for X1 commodity increases, and that is plotted here in plot C. That is C. Join all these points. This is demand curve. You will get demand curve like this. We have derived the demand curve using the indifference curve technique. Very simple. I will just sum it up. See, when the price was this much, When the price was OY, say, let's say P2, right? P, right? This is P1. Okay. When the price was P2, the demand was this much only. So it is A. When the price fell down to P, the new equilibrium point is B. When the price fell down from P1 from P, so it increased. The demand, quantity demanded is increased. So all these corresponding points are plotted here, and we see 3 points here, A, B, C. You can see A, B, C. And if you add all those things, you will get a line which slopes downwards, and that is the demand curve. So we have derived the demand curve using the indifference curve technique. You write here picture B. This is picture A. So using this picture A, we have derived this B. That is how we have to derive the demand curve from indifference curve and budget constraint or budget line. Thank you.